Are ready for the picks and bans of El Clasico. It is the number 2 seed Nemesis Hydra against the number 3 seed GankStars Vega. Another best 2 out of 3. Winner goes to the finals. Loser goes to play Von Menace in the 3rd place game. Still a lot of prestige there. Nemesis Hydra is going to take away that classic triple stun comp right out of the gate with the jewel ban.
Yeah, so they looked at the one match that they did lose against GankStars Vega, and with that triple stun comp, so they're trying to make sure that they don't run into something like that this time. On GankStars Vega's side, they have a lot of comps in mind. So if they're not going to be running this stun comp, they're going to try and prioritize something that's very strong early in the jungle, so that they don't get rotated on, they don't get out farmed in the jungle, they don't get anything stolen from them. They're able to hold that pressure.
So they're going to ban Fortress is what you're insinuating.
I hope they would ban Fortress.
And it is a Koshka ban. They're taking it away from Hydra.
But that still leaves Nemesis open with a Fortress ban, where they can actually do run a Scarf like Von did in the qualifiers. It leaves a lot of things open that matches Nemesis playstyle.
The crowd still wants to see a pedal. That would be a counter pick for sure. And it is going to be a Rona coming off for Nemesis Hydra. Hafu, just what you were talking about with the 111 meta.
Yeah, I mean, Rona is so powerful. I think she does get shut down by Fortress. And what do you think, maybe a Fortress Glaive?
A Fortress Glaive? Well, anybody that's able to sustain long, probably building breaking points is really good. Aftershock is really good against Rona. But with GankStars Vega coming up, they're probably prioritizing somebody that has a little bit of distance or a little bit of mobility to be able to get away from that red mist.
And while we're waiting for that pick, Hafu, you've played with GankStars in ranked, maybe as much as anyone who's not in the organization itself. What are you looking for here?
I mean, I think just as individual players, they're just all amazing. Although everyone in these matches now are going to be at that tier. They've all been vainglorious, and I think their mechanical skills will show.
Okay, we'll look for that. And GankStars Vega choosing an Arden and a Scarf from.
Very good against Rona picks, actually. Scarf is like probably one of the top laners to go against the Rona, being able to poke from far away, having slows. All he has to make sure is that he doesn't get locked down by a Shiver Steel or stun per se, but with Arden there to provide that extra backup, that guidance in case he does need a Vanguard or a mobility boost, even a Gauntlet just to shut down Rona from escaping.
Okay, we'll wait and see what Nemesis Hydra chooses to do. And while we're waiting for that, Hafu?
Do you think that Rona might be a more premier pick than Fortress? We've kind of seen a lot of Ronas get banned out and picked.
True. Rona does have an easier time scaling, even though if you're behind, especially when you're ahead, it's like a quick snowball. But having Fortress, it opens up my comp to a lot more things. I could choose another hero in the jungle with Fortress to be able to engage in Rona all the time in the early game. And that's what I would do personally.
So Nemesis Hydra, they opt for the Catherine Celeste double stun with the Rona. That's an interesting look, Rome. What does that indicate?
They plan this out pretty well. What they're going to try and do is just jump to that back line, try and get rid of Scarf. But with GankStars Vegas, they might choose a peel, something like Glaive, especially in this scenario where Glaive does so well against just pushing Rona away from the Scarf, trying to help him find ways to escape. And I don't know. I'm liking GankStars Vega's comp so far.
Now, Hardik, we know that he prefers heroes like Koshka, where he can go in, aggressively dive, pick fights. Can he replicate that with a Rona?
Rona, you can also pretty much do better. All you're lacking with Rona is maybe level 1 to 4. But after that, Rona actually does a very good job of jumping into the middle of fights, taking up a lot of skills, and just sustaining herself, especially through her ultimate.
Okay. We actually saw their sister team, Nemesis Titan, run this comp, the Rona, Catherine, Celeste. So it's nice to see that. I'm sure they've been sharing strategies this whole time. That's
a great point. And GankStars Vega, they do round it out with the Glaive.
So positioning is going to be very important in this match between the two teams. Having engagements and catching up people who dive way too far and punishing them is what's going to win in the team fight. If Glaive were to use his Afterburn to go in first, and leaving Rona behind and Scarf open for her to pretty much target down, they might lose that team fight. But the same can be said with Rona jumping in too early, getting Afterburn by Glaive, and just having Scarf just poke and poke.
Okay, so the peel will be important, but so will the aggression coming out of old school in this situation.
Yeah, look for Lost Boy Toph to be making a lot of great plays today. Like he's going to be able to command the flow, to like pretty much tell his team when to jump in, when not to jump in, when to back up a bit, just in case they do have vision. Like they can have like they can prioritize a little head time just to plan how their engagements are going to happen.
Okay, Hafu, you gotta tell us, who will you pick to win El Clasico and head to the finals?
I still want to say GankStars Vega is going to take this because I just want to believe in Fuji and Old School. A little bit of bias, and Wrecked, excuse me. But a little bit of biased, but I'm hoping they pull this one through.
All right, GankStars looking to break the streak. Let's find out with our casters. It is Action Jackson and Vedius.
Thank you, Playoff Beard. Welcome back to the caster desk. We've got some more great games for you guys. The El Clasico, just like they were saying, GankStars Vega versus Nemesis Hydra. Vedius, how are you feeling about this match?
I'm really excited. Happy to be back on the caster desk after a fantastic first game series. Liberation X taking a 2-0 over Von Menace. Was not expecting that. They did say they were coming in prepared, and after having a little chat with some of the GankStars Vegas member, they have said exactly the same thing. So if we're seeing the trend of the lower seed coming out ahead, I wonder if GankStars Vega can finally upset the Nemesis Hydra draft that has constantly been the ones to come out on top.
It is a good question, you know, and I do know that GankStars were prepping a lot last night. I spoke to Fuji as well. He's a great guy. You guys should go find him and talk to him as well. But, you know, he was talking about how them and LibX were working together to prep for their first round games, because obviously they're not fighting each other until they get to the finals. But guys, we are on to the Halcyon Fold. This is going to be an awesome match.
It certainly is, and you were talking about how both these teams, they've been preparing a lot for this matchup because it is El Clasico. When we first spoke to both these teams, they were all about, do you guys want to meet Nemesis and do you want to meet GankStars at some point in the tournament? And both of them were like, yes. For Nemesis, it was kind of like, yeah, you know, we've beaten them many times before. We can probably do it again. Easy route for us into the finals. Whereas for GankStars, it's more of a pride day. Okay, we've fallen short against them in the past, but this is our opportunity to turn things around. So this is going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see how things play out.
Yeah, Nemesis already being aggressive here in the early game. They actually skipped their front camp and went straight into that shot bush. Look at how quickly the rotations are coming down. Wrecked is taking a big chunk of damage right off the bat. Hardex wants this one, jumps into the fray. Wrecked should be able to back out of here, but Old School now the focus. You see Lost Boy Toph sitting on his face. Wrecked actually goes back in and gets chunked very, very hard. If there's another way for them to jump on, they could have maybe found the kill. Nemesis not going to get anything off the back of that, but they do force GankStars to back off, play a little bit safe, and they stole one of those front camp minions.
So very early rotations coming out from both teams. They recognized that an engagement was kicking off in the bottom half of the fold, and they immediately responded. Very nice rotations coming out. Unfortunately for Nemesis Hydra, they weren't able to push the health advantage that they had over GankStars Vega, so they could not go in and steal a couple of those jungle camps. So everything going to return to normality so far. Neither side going to be forced back, and we're going to see a little bit of normality. But GankStars going for that engagement would have been a little bit risky considering how much stronger Hardex and Lost Boy Toph is in terms of the 2 versus 2. The thing for GankStars is they need to wait a little bit longer. They will scale incredibly well as the game progresses. Naturally, a Scarf is very, very strong once those major items have been picked up. On the analyst desk, they were talking about positioning being a key thing. This is where it will be important in these early game fights.
Absolutely, and already you can see 3 members of Nemesis grouping up here, going for that invade pressure. GankStars need to make sure they control vision as well as they can. Obviously, they're going to be forced out of their jungle quite frequently, but having the scout traps in the right places will tell them when they need to leave. Not quite sure who picked up that camp. I think
Old School did manage to get that.
All right, so he is able to stop at least a bit of that jungle being stolen. Right now, the onus is on GankStars to address this aggression, though. Maybe they can go for a push in the lane. Maybe they can invade a little themselves. Coeds and Lost Boy Toph trying to keep their eye on where they move to, though. Coeds taking a lot of damage as well, but a great stun coming out. Good core collapse. Hardex as well jumping in here just for a little bit of a love tap. But right now, you know, this is pretty much what you would expect from these compositions in the early game. Nemesis being as aggressive as they can.
Also, Nemesis Hydra as a team are renowned for their aggression. When we saw them play up against Liberation X, it was constantly back and forth, back and forth. We even had the best game, I would argue, of the entire tournament, where Nemesis was forced down to 1 hit away to end the game against Liberation X, and they just could not do it. It was such a tense match between those 2 teams, and moving into this one, it was just, it's what you expect from the teams, to be constantly invading. GankStars, though, have found Hardek in the jungle.
Yeah, and he's actually by himself right now, so this might be a tough spot for him to get out of. He does have the leap ability with Enter the Fray to actually get out of it. He's going to jump right over the wall, but he's between a rock and a hard place. Fuji actually using his boots just to close that distance a little bit quicker. Rekt taking a lot of damage here, but they still might be able to find the kill if maybe we see a rotation down from their remaining member. Hardek is in a tough spot trying to get out of here. He's going to have Enter the Fray available relatively soon, but he's burning a little bit from the Fan the Flames. He's managed to get that distance between them, and I imagine Old School, he's actually taking a lot of pressure. Now he goes down. Coeds finds it with Lost Boytoff. Hardek might be the consolation prize that Fuji and Rekt are looking for, though. Here comes Lost Boy Toph trying to protect his teammate. One more auto attack might fan the flames enough onto Hardek to find the kill, but now Coeds is here as well. Rekt is in a bad spot. Coeds gets turned on. Fuji finds it. He's going to go for more. Hardek with that block is going to get the shield. He survives. 2 kills going over to Nemesis Hydra very quickly. They might find a third. Rekt extremely low, but Old School's here. He's going to look for Hardek. He finds it. That's going to even things up. Both teams, lots of early aggression here.
So Old School recognized that Hardek had been found in the jungle. He also wanted to collapse because he knew that Rona was trying to escape that very difficult situation that he'd been forced into. But the rest of Nemesis Hydra wanted to prevent that rotation from coming out, so they're able to pick up the first blood onto Old School, which is a great start for them. Now they have the numbers advantage. They tried to do the rotation, but Coed's a little bit out of position, and Fuji takes that opportunity to pick himself up a kill. Very back and forth, currently sitting in 2-2 on the scoreboard, but because of these constant rotations that are coming out from either side, the CS differences is starting to develop. Coeds with 42 to the 33 of Fuji is largely a result of Fuji constantly rotating out of the lane and trying to be helpful to his team.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he's doing that. It's a nice way to address the aggression coming out of Hydra. At the moment, we are seeing a 1K lead developed for the side of Nemesis, but the fact that it's not actually bigger, I think, is a good thing for GankStars. Hardek is looking to change this. He's trying to go for an engagement here. With Fuji rotating down in the well-positioned goop, it's difficult for Hydra to really go for the fight that they want. Rekt has to be careful, though. He might get engaged on. Lost Boy Toph looking for it, does find that stun. It's a very back-and-forth fight. Lots of just moving in and out very slowly. Afterburn over the wall buys some time. They're actually going to knock Coeds away. I'm not sure that was the best plan. Hardek finds that first kill. He wants more onto Rekt, but he's going to go down to Fuji. Rekt, he's gotten under his tower. The Heliogenesis lands on the Fuji, though. Lots of damage. They're both jumping together. That seems like a terrible idea. They fall. That's an ace coming out from Nemesis Hydra.
Coeds just picked up the Frostburn. That was such a major power spike that GankStars did not want to go in for that engagement. That was just really bad decision making. Even at the end there, they were able to capitalize on Hardek just being a little bit over-aggressive. Fuji's fantastic positioning, but then they decided to try and re-engage with the Vanguard coming out from Rekt, and that resulted in Coeds being able to pick up a very easy double kill. Nemesis Hydra are really playing out these fights very well, optimizing the power spikes that they have, and just straight up outplaying GankStars so far.
Yeah, and I have to admit, that was a big gold swing coming in for Nemesis. They need to be doing this to stop GankStars from scaling up. That was just over 1,000 gold gained in about 30 seconds. Really nice play from them. At the moment, talking about the items though, I find it interesting that Old School is going directly for a Sorrow Blade. He wants to get to the point where he's dealing damage as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's he wants to be involved in these fights. Hitting those power spikes is very important for the side of GankStars. We've already talked about how, as a composition, they slightly outscale that of Nemesis Hydra, so trying to get that early damage as soon as possible means that you can get involved more in these fights and you can turn these exchanges in your favor. So the thing that I find particularly interesting is these very early reflex blocks coming out from Hardek, but hang on a second.
Look at this flank coming in. Hardek all the way on the other side of Fuji and his laner. The Dragon Breath comes out, but look at the damage onto Old School. He can't get the kill onto Hardek. Now Fuji is going to be the focus. All 3 members of Nemesis just tunneling onto him. They get the kill. Rekt, the last remaining member, he's in a bad spot. That's another ace coming in for Nemesis Hydra.
Fantastic play once again coming out from Nemesis Hydra, and you saw how that reflex block did so much work. The shield on top of Hardek kept him alive long enough that they had to invest so many resources just to kill Hardek. That means that Coeds on the back line was just free to do as much damage as he wanted to. That Frostburn had been completed. He was sitting on top of the Piercing Shard, meaning he was easily hitting through the very little shield sitting on the side of GankStars Vega, and it was easy for them to come out ahead in that exchange.
Absolutely. Right now, we're seeing this gold lead develop even more. You've got 4 additional kills on the side of Hydra. They've also taken the turret and an immense payout from the gold miner, and that's accrued into a 4,000 gold lead. Not something to be sneezed at about 9 minutes in here, but you gotta wonder, can GankStars just weather this storm and make it to the later stages of the game where they can really utilize Fuji's Scarf?
Well, this is the big question, because right now, even though GankStars they outscale, but only ever so slightly. So as long as Nemesis Hydra maintain this lead, as long as they can hold a solid item advantage over GankStars, then they should constantly come out ahead in these engagements. Now they recognize that Coeds is in a great position. They potentially looking to shove up this lane. Getting a bit of poke down with the Frostburn becomes a lot easier, and they can use that poke to also get a lot of damage down onto the turret. Fuji will have a lot of wave clear available. You can already see the poke coming down onto Hardek. So Nemesis Hydra deciding to back away from this siege, recognizing that they can't quite pull it off just yet.
You know, one thing I really want to highlight here is that GankStars are struggling with the vision control. You would expect it given how far behind they are, but Hardek keeps getting flanks in, moving towards that turret rush, allowed for, if the opportunity presented itself, him to engage from the flank and just absolutely own everyone. So the fact that GankStars doesn't have good scout trap placement right now is one of the big reasons why Nemesis can keep finding fights that they want, but also avoiding the ones where GankStars maybe pick someone up.
The biggest problem for GankStars, oh hang on, they just picked up Infusions. They could be looking for a fight right now.
Oh, that's going to be the gauntlet going down. Lost Boy top. No way to get out of that one. Old School finds the afterburn, but Fuji is going to be collapsed on. He kites backwards. That's a ton of damage, though. Fuji, he finds 1 return kill, but is all he can pick up. A 3rd ace of the game at only 10 minutes. Nemesis Hydra are steamrollering through the early times here.
This looked like a fantastic spot for GankStars to get the engagement that they want. They just bought some major items. Sorrowblade had just been completed for Old School. Fuji had picked himself up a Shatterglass along with a Reflex block. Old School also got himself an Infusion. This is the time they wanted to fight. They immediately engage onto Lost Boy Toph, but once again, Hardek comes in from the flank. Coeds with a fantastic Solar Storm easily turns that fight around.
Old School actually just trying to get the members of Nemesis off of their jungle camps. They need some income here for GankStars Vega. Fuji caught out, though. That is a bad position to be in. He is going to kite back for a little while. Hardek wants this one. Red Mist comes out. Enter the fray. He finds himself the kill. Old School on the back line does a decent chunk of damage to Coeds, but can't pick up the kill. And you can see again and again Nemesis running away with these fights. It might be a little bit too late for GankStars at this point. They're falling so far behind.
Oh, the engagement isn't quite over yet. They want to try and get on to Rekt, but things are not going to work out for him. And it's just Hardek and Coeds do so much damage in these fights. Their positioning is fantastic. Coeds is able to kite around and prevent Old School from really getting on top of him. And it's so easy for Hardek to get on top of Fuji because his positioning, which has been so key in these fights, has not been fantastic. It's just a simple matter of Hardek jumping on top of him, dealing the damage, and denying him from these fights. Now that that Serpent's Mask has been completed for Hardek, it's going to be even easier for him to sit on top of Fuji and deal the damage that he needs to shut him out. Very little armor is available on the side of GankStars.
I mean, Fuji, he rushed right for the Shatterglass, which I think is the right choice here because he does need to burn through these key targets. But at this point, he's not able to position correctly in fights to actually achieve that goal. He's unable to kite back far enough. He is going to try and pick up a kill onto Coeds here, though, but Old School's too far away from the initiation.
The biggest thing for Fuji right now is that he should really stop using his Dragon's Breath. He probably should have gone for a fairly early Frostburn, similar to what Coeds did, and prioritized kiting around Hardek. He's not at a point yet where he's doing a huge amount of damage. Yes, going for that early Shatterglass is great, but he's never had an opportunity to really get the damage down that he needs to. Whereas Coeds going much more for a utility-focused build, now picking up the Eve of Harvest, also has the Broken Myth. Coeds is insanely strong right now. 3 major items completed, as well as the Reflex block, 9, 1, and 4. I didn't even realize how strong Coeds was at this point.
Yeah, he needs to be able to deal with Old School on the back line. Of course, picking up that Star Blade, he is a big threat, but when you've got, you know, as much sustain as he does, when you've got the Frostburn as well, it's impossible for Old School to stick onto him and go for a proper fight. Hardek, though, is going to jump into the fray. The Gauntlet goes down, does get 2 good stuns. Hardek being careful here not to overextend. Fuji actually kiting back quite effectively compared to usual, but look at the massive Solar Storm that comes across, picks the kill up onto Old School, and now Hardek and Coeds, the 2 damage threats on Nemesis, surviving the entire fight, picking up another ace, the 4th of the game. 16 kills to 6, 8,000 gold in the lead. Nemesis are running away with it.
Initially, I thought that was looking quite good for GankStars. They were able to kite out that fight fairly effectively, but the moment Hardek finally got past the front line, it was so easy for him to collapse onto Fuji and shut him down. That was so well executed from Nemesis Hydra. They knew exactly how their composition worked and they've taken advantage of it. That very slight early game lead that they've had, they've capitalized on, and they've been making it work for them. 16 to 6 right now, 8,000 gold lead in their favor, and it's just a rough ride for them. Look at these items that have been picked up for the side of Nemesis Hydra. We're actually seeing a clockwork coming out from Lost Boy Toff, going for that cooldown speed, really wants to get as many stuns off as possible, wants to provide that utility in these engagements, and it does look like they're actually going for another engagement right now.
So long as Lost Boy Toff gets a stun off, someone's probably going to die at this point. Hardek and Coeds, like you said, have just a ton of damage. They can burn through pretty much everyone, even sort of the tankier members like Rekt. You know, it's going to be easy to pick those kills up. So at the moment, Nemesis playing it pretty slow. They're not over-aggressing, which I think is smart given the stakes of this match.
So they just picked up the second minion miner. Given that the Kraken is just about to spawn, this could be the opportunity for them to rush it down and potentially look for the end game push. I believe they're going to go to the shop, likely to pick up some infusions. The Warhorn is now completed for Lost Boy Toff. That is going to be their engagement opportunity. You can see right now, there's the infusions for both Hardek and Coeds. This is their opportunity. They're looking to try and end the game.
Fuji's got a crystal infusion, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Rekt walks right into the team right now. He is taking a ton of damage. The gauntlet gets thrown out. Fuji trying to kite. You can see the Helio Genocide just doing so much damage onto Rekt, onto Fuji. It forces Fuji back, doesn't even let him stay in range to deal damage. Hardek going for the tower dive might be a little bit too bold. He's going to pop that reflex block.
Solar Storm.
Oh, what was that damage coming out of Coeds, annihilating Fuji from about half health. That just shows you how far ahead Nemesis are right now. They're looking to close this game out.
Yeah, I could see that coming from a mile away from Coeds. The moment he landed that Heliogenesis, it was like, yeah, he's about to use his ultimate, and there it was. So much damage, deleted Fuji off the map immediately with the numbers advantage, and especially with Fuji gone, the risk of a steal is minimal to none, and this is the opportunity that Nemesis Hydra have been looking for. Very smartly played. They knew they had the advantage, especially when you have a Celeste. You can just sit under a tower, get that poke down, and the moment somebody is chunked out and you have the numbers as well as the health advantage, that is the opportunity to take the Kraken and look to push and end the game. Now with that Kraken, this is going to be it. This is going to be Nemesis Hydra looking to close out game 1.
So Fuji at least does have really good damage to objectives like Kraken, but at this point, I don't think Nemesis are actually going to let him position such that he can attack it. You know, they are just so far ahead. They can burst people down. Hardek just goes for the tower by himself, and actually Old School gets the afterburn on probably the wrong target there. Good reflex block out of Hardek, stops that one. Now Old School going to go down. Rekt likely the next target. They're actually trying to pick up Fuji, even though he's already onto the fountain. You can see amazing damage coming out of Nemesis. Meanwhile, the Kraken's just hitting the base. I think this is all over for GankStars.
It's very likely. All they need to do is keep GankStars away from the Kraken, and this is going to be game over for them.
Yeah, Rekt sitting right in the middle here, tries to throw down that gauntlet, but he still falls. The Kraken hitting the Vein Crystal. That is Hardek falling, but Coeds still extremely high health. Lost Boy Toff might get burned up by the Fan the Flames here. He is like existing on almost no health. Fuji trying to juke out from these Helio Genocide, but he can't do it. Game 1, guys.